I've stayed in more than 60 Airbnbs in the last 2 years, and I'm here to share my top 10 expert tips and strategies to help weed out scams and duds so that you can find the perfect Airbnb. This screams scam. Close the tab, Control-Alt-Delete, we're not staying there. Booking an Airbnb in any city can be a gamble. And we've all heard, maybe some of us have even experienced, a few Airbnb horror stories. Raise your hand if you've ever been personally victimized by an Airbnb host. I know I have. With these 10 tried and true strategies that you can copy of exactly what to look for, what to avoid, and how to filter through the overwhelm and perhaps great disappointment of hundreds of listings available on Airbnb to find the best one. We have learned all of these the hard way, and I'm sharing all of them so that you don't have to make these same mistakes and jump right into finding the perfect Airbnb with these strategies. Let's get into it. Number 1, watch the clock. Plan for check-in time logistics and avoid checking in late at night. This is because if there is a problem with the Airbnb and you need to leave right away, it can be quite difficult to find another accommodation, even a hotel, at such last minute. We found ourselves in this pickle numerous times and actually haven't been able to vacate the Airbnb due to nowhere else, Airbnb, hotel, hostel, having any availability for that night. Also, pro tip here, when you report a problem to Airbnb and you're trying to vacate a flat, it usually will take more than a few hours to get this resolved. This is because they need to follow protocol and attempt to contact the host in order to try and resolve this before they can agree to let you check out. And if you've checked in super late, chances are you won't hear back from your host until the next morning to be able to fix this. While I know it is not always feasible to change the time of your arrival, it's a best practice of ours if we're arriving late at night to just check into a hotel for that first evening and then move to the Airbnb for the rest of your trip. Checking into a hotel has a much higher guarantee if something goes wrong, they can move you rooms or have a quick remedy to that. Whereas if you're at an Airbnb, you're kind of stuck. Trust me, it will be worth it if you are getting in late at night to book a hotel for the first night of your stay. Number 2, run, don't walk away from these 4 no-no words in reviews. I cannot stress this enough. To help avoid booking a place you'll immediately want to leave, be diligent when reading the reviews. You can find so many discrepancies within a seemingly perfect Airbnb if you take the time to filter by these 4 words. These are the 4 no-no words that you need to be aware of. These words can be a huge inclination for you to book elsewhere. If the comment is a once-off, that's fine, but if there are numerous guests complaining about smell of cigarette smoke, a broken appliance, chances are it will be the exact same when you arrive. Skip yourself the trouble and just avoid booking this altogether. We've stayed at an Airbnb where numerous guests were saying that the washing machine wasn't working. We didn't really think too much of it. When we got there, it was also broken. When we asked the host about it, he seemed to say it was a new issue, it would be getting fixed within a few weeks. However, when we started to comb back through those old reviews, this had been going on for months and the host simply hadn't fixed it throughout this entire time. So chances are, if someone's complaining about something consistently being broken, it will be broken when you arrive. Instead, bringing us to number 3, search for these 4 green flags within the reviews. Responsive, clean, helpful, and thank you. These will likely ensure that your stay meets your expectations and everything should go according to plan. Searching for words like responsive and helpful will give you an idea if other guests had an easy time communicating with the host. Words like thank you, people will often say if they've had a nice stay towards the end of their review. This is always important as the host will be your main point of contact, whether good, bad, if troubles arise, whatever it might be. It's important that you feel that you can rely on them to respond in a timely manner, be courteous, and someone that has no problem answering any questions. If you find these green flags scattered throughout the reviews, chances are the flat is great, it's clean, which is very important, that you'll feel comfortable throughout your stay. Number 4, steer clear of duplicate listings. If you're on the map view on Airbnb, sometimes you can find the exact same listing seemingly just a few streets away from each other. You can easily identify this if you see the same images, the same title, the same description. You'll get an idea that this is probably a duplicate listing. We've seen this happen sometimes when a host receives negative reviews on one of the listings and the duplicate listing is seemingly brand new to the platform. Skip these all together and find a different place to rent. Bonus tip here, avoid taking the conversation off of Airbnb to confirm your booking. What do I mean by this? Look out for listings with a description, usually in all caps, saying to email us or text us at this number to confirm your booking. Not only does Airbnb not allow this, but by taking the conversation off of the platform, you are losing all protection that comes with booking through Airbnb. I'm not talking about the host asking you to message them on WhatsApp after you've booked it to confirm the time that you're meeting, if you can drop off your bags in advance. That's completely normal. But rather, what I'm talking about is we've seen this used as a tactic where hosts will say, email us at this address so that we can confirm that it's available during the dates that you want to book when it says it is on Airbnb until you've emailed them separately, etc., etc., etc. This screams scam. If we see this in a listing description, we will automatically close the tab, Control-Alt-Delete. It was never there. We're not staying there. And you should do the same. Number 5, why you should review your host stats like a dating profile. Knowing who you're renting from and who you're communicating with can make you feel a lot more comfortable throughout your stay. A must for us is a host that has their identity verified by the platform. This means their phone number, driver's license, email address. Particularly, we make sure that their license is verified, as this just guarantees it's a real person. If the host has a bio available, I always like to read this and honestly genuinely really appreciate a host that's taken the time to fill this out, as it can give you a quick glimpse into their life, who they are, and give you a feel from who you'll be renting from, or potentially staying with if it's a shared space. You can also look for super hosts on the platform, which is what Airbnb marks a host when they view them as highly rated and experienced. While this is not an end-all be-all sign of you having a great stay, it can definitely be a good indicator that your stay will be pleasant and the host will meet, if not exceed, your expectations as a guest. From our experience, we prefer to rent from an actual host or individual rather than a management company acting on behalf of the host. We have run into numerous headaches when these companies act as hosts, so we now try to pick an Airbnb managed by an actual person, the owner of the property, whomever it might be, except for a management company. That said, you can always check to see if the host has other properties that they manage, and definitely read those reviews to get a gauge of how they treat other guests, how they upkeep their properties, etc. Also, if you're wondering, Gabriella, why have you stayed in so many Airbnbs? That is a great question. It's because my best friend and I have had the massive privilege to travel for 6 to 7 months out of the year abroad in Europe and the United Kingdom, and are having the best time. We hop from country to country, city to city to city, and almost exclusively stay in Airbnbs. We feel that Airbnb gives us so much more of a homey, lived-in experience, especially when we're visiting someplace new, rather than a hotel room. We have had our fair share of wild, unexpected, sometimes gross stories of booking different Airbnbs where we've had to vacate almost immediately, and we have also had heavenly ones. This is why I wanted to create this video today for you and share our firsthand lived experiences so that you can learn from our unknown mistakes that we've made the past couple years, and you can use our non-negotiable criteria for every time you next book an Airbnb, almost ensuring you will find a good one. Not much of a surprise to you, I am actually recording at an Airbnb right now in Brighton. If you have never heard of Brighton, it is an amazing seaside town in England. I would highly recommend you go. I actually made an itinerary for you for 48 hours of everything you need to eat, see, and do in Brighton. I'll link that video above, so be sure to check it out. Number 6, going in line with number 5. Don't be afraid to book a new listing as long as the host has excellent reviews and you thoroughly vet them. We've booked several Airbnbs in different countries that had no reviews and actually have ended up being some of the best Airbnbs we have ever stayed in to date. This is because we vetted the host extensively and felt comfortable with our research to go ahead and take this gamble on a brand new listing. These are the telltale signs that you can use to help judge if you should take the gamble, and you follow these steps. First things first is the new host only has positive reviews. How can they get these reviews, you're asking, if this is their first listing? That's from them being a guest in someone else's Airbnb. As we touched on earlier, comments such as kind, respectful, clean, or tidy are very good indicators that the host treats somebody else's space with respect and value, thus going hand in hand with them likely being this way towards you and their own space. The second thing we make sure of is that the host has all of their information completely filled out, including the description for the flat, the house rules, their biography, along with their identity being verified, as we mentioned earlier. If all of the above checks out and the photos look great, it feels like a nice space, the last thing that you have to do is send the host a message before booking to ensure you get a timely and approachable response. If so, this will all signal in the right direction of taking that gamble on booking a brand new listing. And hey, most of the time, brand new Airbnb listings will offer a discount to the first 3 guests that stay there. So it could actually be a win-win situation if you find a brand new listing that meets those criteria. Number 7, don't be basic. Filter by your requirements. While it might seem obvious, checking off your requirements via the filter section is a good tactic to get into the habit of. For example, Wi-Fi and TV might seem standard. However, you might be surprised that some rentals don't offer these amenities. Airbnb also has important accessibility features you can filter by, such as flats that offer step-free guest entrance, accessible parking spots, and more. Filters are particularly useful if you want a luxury amenity such as a washing machine, a dryer, parking, or even air conditioning. Many European apartments don't come standardly fitted with air conditioning units, so it's best to filter these items and select the ones that you have to have, especially luxury ones, in the beginning of your search, rather than finding the perfect Airbnb and then looking down at the amenities and realizing that they don't offer the specifics that you're looking for. If you are traveling anywhere in Europe during the summer months, I highly recommend you please filter by units that come with air conditioning. We were in Rome this year during the hottest ever recorded day in July, and it was brutal. We were so lucky that our flat, we made sure had air conditioning in the bedrooms at least, so we had somewhere cool to escape to. But if you don't, it can be really overwhelming when it is so hot. Seemingly nowhere has shade or air conditioning because they're just not set up for this type of temperature. So it's really important to consider your needs ahead of time so that you can filter by apartments that have exactly what you'll be looking for. You can also filter by hosts that offer free cancellation for their properties. I love free cancellation. This filter is amazing. It allows guests to cancel their stay up to a certain amount of time prior to check-in and get all of their money back. Checking this box always gives me peace of mind, knowing that if my plans change, I maybe find someplace better, a friend or family member is going to come stay and we need to upgrade. You can do that as long as you have a place that you can cancel. If you are booking a last-minute trip, however, free cancellation will likely be nearly impossible to find, just because as it gets closer to the date, there really isn't room for the host to find another guest to bring in should you cancel. Another thing for you to consider is if the flat has a lift/elevator so that you don't have to worry about lugging your bags up and down the stairs. We've seen a lot of European flats get negative reviews because people are complaining that there's too many stairs, the staircase was too narrow, they had a really hard time lifting up their big heavy bags. So if you know that you're going to be traveling with more than something small, I would definitely recommend checking off that elevator filter so that you don't need to worry about carrying your bags. You know that there will be something to help get you up and down. My best friend and I have been traveling exclusively with one carry-on suitcase each. Oh my goodness, if you know how small these are, you know how small these are, and if you don't, they are tiny. Yes, it is a tight squeeze. You have to be very selective with what you're bringing, but it definitely can be done. There is a video on that coming soon. It is full of tips and tricks and things that I wish that I had known my first time around. How to actually make it feasible to travel in different climate, doing different activities can be done. So be sure you subscribe so you don't miss that when it drops. Number 8, comb for hidden rules in the policies and descriptions. In addition to doing your due diligence with thoroughly reading through the reviews, it is important to carefully comb through all of the policies in case there are any unexpected details that you should know about. These sections include the house rules, safety and property info, of course the listing description, and the cancellation policy. When you make a booking on Airbnb, it's expected of you as a guest to have read through carefully all of these different sections, and by confirming that booking, you're adhering to the host rules and expectations. So it's super important that you feel comfortable with the parameters that the host might have in place for you and not worry about running into any issues once you check in. Mentions of kind of secretive hidden rules can be anything from quiet enforcement hours where you can't make any loud noise, have music playing from certain times, not being allowed to have any guests over at your flat, whether that's for dinner, for breakfast, at night, doesn't matter. Some hosts do not allow anybody else on the property. No pets if the rental isn't suitable for infants or children, and the list goes on. These are all important details that you would probably rather know about before you book it. We've even stayed in several flats that have heating limitations. So for example, when it's super cold in the winter, they won't allow the temperature beyond a certain degrees, which can be not as warm as you would be hoping for. These details can oftentimes be snuck into the very bottom of their policies, house rules, so it's super important to really comb through that you know all of the expectations of you as a guest prior to booking a place, and you can have a great time without worrying that you're doing something wrong behind the host's back. Number 9, convenience can be worth a few extra pennies. Location and public transportation proximity is very important, but sometimes can be an overlooked detail when you find a great Airbnb. If your trip is only for a few days, it can be really valuable to find an Airbnb very close to the center of where you're going to be spending most of your time, or close by public transportation so that you can get to and from without having to spend a lot of time walking to get to that public transportation and then having a journey on top of that. The way that you can find the location before booking is by doing this. If you navigate to the Where You'll Be section on the Airbnb listing, you'll find a map. While the exact address is never provided on Airbnb before you book that listing, you can zoom in on this map and find the little red pin. This will be very helpful for you. You can find a cafe, a restaurant, a park. Anything near this red location pin will serve as a great reference point. I'll take that place to Google Maps as my starting point and type in several destinations that I'll plan to visit on my trip. From there, I'll see what the directions look like and how long it would take me to walk, to take public transport, a car, etc. By doing this, it will give you a clear idea of how much time you'll actually be spending from point A to point B throughout your trip. We always like to factor in how much we'd be spending on public transportation if we stayed outside of the city to come in and back every day, and see if we can add that total amount onto an Airbnb that's in the city center so that we'd end up spending the same amount of money. However, we'd save so much more time given that we could just walk out the front door and be at the places that we wanted to see. And when you are coming to a city purely for an event, such as a concert or a game, it is so worth considering staying close to where that event is taking place. This can be a huge time and money saver, as public transportation and the roads in general can be extremely crowded with all the people going to and from this event that you do not want to get stuck in. And if your flat isn't close by, you can easily spend several hours waiting in these massive queues, go several miles back to where you started. If you have ever tried to get back to London city centre after a concert at Wembley, oh my gosh, you know the chaos that I am talking about. We typically run as fast as we can after a concert ends at Wembley to get out, because you will be trapped in these insane lines genuinely for hours just to go a couple stops on the tube to get back to your original destination. Of course, on-demand car services such as Uber will also be extremely expensive and take you just as long, perhaps even longer, than public transportation, given they're stuck in back-to-back-to-back traffic. Number 10, the last tip, the good old saying of go with your gut. If something doesn't seem quite right to you about that listing, no matter if it's the pictures, the description, if you're messaging the host and you're just not getting the responses that you're hoping for, it seems a bit strange. Of course, while nothing is perfect, your instincts are usually always right. So even in a case like booking an Airbnb where you might not think they come into play, it definitely can, especially if it's a situation where you're renting a shared room on Airbnb and not your own place. You really need to make sure that you're comfortable sharing the common areas with the host or who else maybe is living at that flat, and make decisions that maybe don't make sense to somebody else. But if you feel that way, please honor that feeling and listen to it. Skip the trouble, save yourself the worries, and find somewhere else. There you have it. 10 tried and true strategies from someone that spent more than a year staying in Airbnbs alone. I'd love to hear if you're surprised by any of these or have your own non-negotiable criteria that you filter for when finding an Airbnb. If you found these strategies valuable, feel free to give a little thumbs up, as it makes a huge difference for the video. By the way, if it's the first time we're seeing each other's faces, welcome. My name is Gabriella and I am so happy to see you here. My best friend and I quit our full-time job to travel abroad together. This is now our second world tour, as we call it. I cannot wait to share more fun stories, vlogs, tips, plenty more travel videos to come. So I hope you stick around, hit that subscribe button, and join in on the fun. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye. Host. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. And tongue tie. It is a cold and rainy day in Brighton today, so you know I had to warm up with a Noops, the best hot chocolate. It is so good.